It is time to finally finish off this Forsaken event. So here we are at level 7, the final chest. Let's go. There is the key. We get our Anubis dragon. And we have some pretty interesting event dialogue to take into account here. The divines are all calmed. Donkey's come to his senses. And all's right with space-time. Actually, Arya, I think space-time is in for a rude awakening. Remember the prophecies you found at the Golden Pyramid? I found one that's different. Since time began its wicked turn, primordial fires burn and burn. If chrono dragons raise concern, the proto dragons soon return. This is literally a hint into the new divines that we're going to be having almost 100%. This is a hint as to the next set of divines that we're going to be having, because we just had chrono dragons, which were all about space-time, wacky space stuff. Proto dragons means like the original OG divines are going to come and sort out the chaos. So this is actually a pretty big hint into what to expect for the next divine events. Burning fires? Proto-dragons? What on Dragonlandia does that mean? We'd better get everyone out of this rift and warn Professor Hogwin. Come on. So, I would highly recommend you take that seriously, and I guess we've already caused enough chaos and my game's crashed. Alright, DML. You nearly done? You're not gonna crash on me? Fantastic. This happens pretty much every time I get a reward in the game. I don't know why. I'm not even going to ask at this point, but there is the Anubis dragon. I'm very happy that we can get a second Anubis dragon. I literally don't care. We get a badge for finishing off the event, and now we don't have to look at Afterlife Adventure ever again. I mean, we can go back into the older stages and 100% complete them because you can get extra resources, but that's if we can be bothered and if we really want to. But talking about these proto divines, like I said, chrono divines were all about this freaky time rift space stuff, whereas the word proto literally means, if you look it in or look it up in Google, it says proto, combining form origin or primitive or first or earliest, and they were saying that the chrono dragons caused chaos. These guys are going to come in and fix everything basically. So what these guys are going to look like, whether they're going to be the same sort of exceptions as we've had, whether they're going to have higher stats, who knows, maybe they'll just keep boosting it and boosting it, but you should definitely consider that these proto-dragons are probably going to be the original, the OG gods of DML, which is going to be interesting. And I actually saw this poll that was happening on the Gameloft forums. I think, considering we've basically just finished the latest Divine event, there was this poll here that either lets you vote on I like the Chrono Divine events or I dislike the Chrono Divine events. I guess if you're sort of iffy about them, then you'd have to choose which one you're closer to, as in, do you like it more than you dislike it, or do you dislike it more than you like it? But this is very, very split. It's almost a straight up 50-50 split. And that's on the forums, where some players have literally been playing this game for years, and these people don't even like it apparently. Some of them do, some of them don't, but 50% split saying, I don't like these events, or very close to 50%. That is really high. I'm really curious to see what that number would be if the poll was done on something like Facebook, or if it was done on YouTube, or if it was done somewhere else. But 50% is really high, or like 48%. I'll do the exact figure that's on the forums right now, which, you know, I'm not going to say it's completely accurate. Maybe some people chose not to vote for whatever reason. Maybe people haven't seen it. But it's very telling as to the sort of attitudes that people have towards these divine events, because I mean, if you'd have asked people that same question maybe 2 divine events ago, I reckon that number probably would have been a lot higher than it is. But this divine event in particular as well, we've got level 7 now. The levels are getting harder. I think people are starting to notice, people are starting to get annoyed and bored of them, because again, I've said it before, Divine events at one point, they were like some super special event that only came a couple of times a year. But now we're getting them every sort of 2 months or so, and it's just sort of like, they don't feel like I really want to play them. They feel like if I missed out on playing them for an event or two, I feel like I wouldn't even miss out on anything, because then I'd have another Divine event to play in like a month and a half's time anyway. It's just overbearing to a lot of people, myself included, just the amount of Divine events that we're getting. I do appreciate the fact that Divine events give new players the opportunity to get Divines that they didn't have before, but the truth is a lot of lower level people can't finish off the events because they're too demanding. So if the reason for having the Divine events was to give lower level players the chance to get Divines, they're not really good for that either. Because again, I talked about it, I think it was yesterday, how the trouble is, lower level players don't have as many habitats, they don't really have the choice of what they can breed all the time, so they just have to sort of breed the collection dragons. They might not have all the elements that they can use and things like that, and it's just so much harder for them to finish off the events, even though it's already really difficult for just long-term players to actually finish off these events. So, you know, power to any of the lower level guys out there that managed to do the event, get Chrono a Pep, get the Anubis dragon, and all of that good stuff. But it's definitely not the majority of lower level people that can finish the events, not by far. Remember when we used to have the calendar events in DML? Maybe you do, maybe you don't, but calendar events were essentially what it sounds like. It was like you log in every single day during the calendar event period, and if you do, at the end of it you'll get a divine, or you'll get a legendary, or you'll get something else cool, which meant that even if you were someone that say was busy that month, maybe you didn't really have a whole lot of time to invest, but as long as you logged in every single day and showed that you were still committed to the game, you still wanted to log in and keep yourself around, you got a free divine out of it. And that was the best way by far of giving the lower level guys something to, you know, sort of boost them up and give them a cool dragon on the way. And I mean, the divines that they gave during the calendar events, they weren't some special exception divines that were like super overpowered. They would, like, it was the Hypnos dragon or Erlang Shen dragon, and at the time they were really underpowered. So they weren't good divines per se. They can work on teams, but they're just not as versatile as something like, you know, a Loki dragon or a Freya, obviously. But it gave those low level guys something, just a cool dragon, and they could feel like, oh, I might not have been able to finish the big event, but I did get this cool thing for logging in. Because at the moment, with how everything goes, it's just sort of like, you have to be logging in every 2 seconds or you get nothing. You get absolutely nada out of the events. I don't like that. I've never really liked that. I've been hoping that they'd bring back calendar events for a long time, but it just is not happening. So maybe we have to give up on the dream of seeing calendar events again. But in the meantime, we just have these long slog events to do. I mean, don't get me wrong, I kind of liked the chrono event theme, how it was like everything's been, all of time is distorted and they bring back pieces of the old map, so they can reuse their artwork and stuff like that, but they can just change up the map slightly, throw in little segments and pieces. I do like that. I liked that concept quite a lot. So maybe with the proto divines, it's gonna go like to, I don't know, it could go back to a prehistoric age, it could just be select themes but OG, so instead of them looking spacey, they look rustic. I don't know. It could, proto could literally design-wise mean just about anything. Not like the chronos that all look spacey or robotic. I don't know what sort of theme they're gonna choose to go with, but I'm interested. Definitely interested. But dude, if they bring out a set of dinosaur divine dragons, I'm gonna freak out. Because I like dragons, right? They're cute. I like lizards. They're cute. But the only thing better than all of that are dinosaurs. And I would kill to see a literal T-Rex in this game. Sure, dragons are basically the same thing. They got their little armies flailing about like the fire dragon and stuff like that do. I would kill to see full dinosaur themed dragons. Because I just like dinosaurs, dude. And if we're going back to air quotes proto divine stuff, I could see it being a thing. You could say that maybe the divines came out during the prehistoric era. Or maybe the dragons in general were created in that sort of time frame. You never know. If we're following the human world in a sense, I guess it's possible. Who knows? Unless we're gonna get a bunch of jellyfish themed dragons and cockroaches, because they've been on the earth for a long time. Like, more than 5 years. And that is a long time. But dude, I reckon that the proto events are probably going to be, well, they're probably planning on making them to be exactly the same as the chrono divine events, in terms of like having a month, a set amount of different events, making them difficult for the last castle event. But maybe they have an idea for a different type of event or a different way of doing it. I think it's probably going to be mostly the same thing. But it is all just a guess. It is just a random guess-a-rooney. We don't have anything confirmed at this point. All that we know is that we got the event dialogue in game, and that is about it. But I'm sure it has piqued the interest of quite a lot of you, seeing that there, if you hadn't already seen the event dialogue. In case you're curious about lore behind some of the events and things like that, just so that you know, the DML wiki actually has all of the character dialogue for events that's posted on that events page. Like the Proto Divine news that was posted quite a few days ago now on the DML wiki, so I already knew about it, and so did a few other people. But say you're not really sure on any lore and maybe you're confused as to the whole overarching story of DML. I mean, we've got a lesbian, we've got a guy that loves his music, we've got issues of being loved by their mother by some of the Vikings, and the grandmother's basically a wicked witch of the West. There's a lot going on. And a lot of it tends to focus on the actual Vikings, rather than the, I guess you could say, air quotes, hero side, because all that equates to is Ned having unrequited love, Arya being dumb, and a professor. And that's like it. There you go. You know, the whole heroes side story of DML, basically. But the Vikings, they're actually quite well built in a more than I'd expect in a game like this anyway. But anyway, for now, that is going to do us. So, you know, there is the event done, skis. I don't even know if I'm going to hatch Anubis. Not that I have any space in the hatchery anyway. I'm going to keep trying to breed Libra for now. And don't forget that we're going to have the chain breeding event coming very soon. So you got to have your breeding den open and ready to go for that. But regardless, take care of yourself. And until next time, I'll see you then.